Okay, so before we start the new pasuk, I remember yesterday when we did the chover chaver thing, I said someone else said this, and I couldn't remember, but it was Saadi Gon, and I just wanted to point out one unique feature of his commentary. You don't have this in your thing. On Saadi Gon's yesterday's pasuk was I forgot the lashon. Better to sit on the corner of a roof or to dwell than with a contentious woman and a base chaver. So he says milas chaver b'makom zemin chover chaver. So chaver here means incantation sayer, right? Asher pirusho lochish l'chashim. Okay, means someone who says incantations. U'makom halachashim kan hatirdanos. I don't know what he means by that. He says, and in the place of incantations here is hatardanos, is burdensomeness. I'm not sure, because he was the one who translated. He added the word tirdanis to describe the Ashes Midyanim, the contentious woman. But this is not the part I want to get to. But then he says like this: V'kach kol shutaf hamatrid. So to any partner who is burdensome, or mazik, or harmful, the afal pi shehatzorech maskikacha lo, even when necessity demands that you pair up, right, with that partner, hariha prida mimenu tova yoser. Separating from that person is better. This is what people say. That loneliness and solidarity, that's not a word. Solitariness, what was it? Solitude, thank you. Is that what you said? Yeah. Solitude is preferable than a partnership with someone contentious, So do you notice in that interpretation, other than the lokish thing, he does something that no one else in the meforshim that we've seen has done in terms of the way he takes the scope of the pasuk. And we said this as a possibility in our questions. And I'll give you a hint. It has to do with pronouns.
You take it to be a male?
Yeah. So it sounds like he's saying any partner, right? Like it could be a business partner, it could be a roommate, and he even says, like, he changes the word to shutaf, and he says mazik, matrid, mazik, and maskikacha lo mimenu, right? So we were asking, is this davka true of a husband-wife relationship, or is this anyone who you're in constant company with? So he's the only one I've seen who explicitly says it's anyone who you're in constant company with, so this would extend to like roommates and business partners. Yeah.
So based on this and based on what we put in the chat yesterday,
yeah,
where it has back in the times, it seems like divorce wasn't really so much of an option.
Right.
So if you're saying that separation is a better option, then for nowadays, would you say divorce is a good?
Sounds like it, right?
Would be fitting this pasuk?
Yeah, sounds like it. Sounds like even back then, but it just, I guess, because it was more extreme, then that could pose other challenges or whatever. But yeah, it seems like divorce would be a solution, or not solution, a viable decision here. Yeah. Okay. New pasuk. 21:10. Okay. Nefesh Rasha Ivsa Ra. Let me just close this here. Lo Yuchan Be'enav Re'ehu. Slightly difficult to translate. You want to take a stab at it? Yeah.
The soul of a Rasha desires bad.
Yeah, the soul. Hold on a second. The soul of a Rasha. Okay, desires bad.
Absolutely bad.
Yeah. That's fine. Yeah. Actually, I think this is going to be a question here, right? So let's just say Ra, okay, and preserve the ambiguity. Also, I mean, desires is a fine translation here, but Ivsa, I feel like, has a different connotation to it, like Taiva, like I don't know. I sometimes, what was it?
Like urine sport?
Yeah, I feel like lust. Yeah, right. So like it has like Taiva has like an instinctual connotation, I think so. Lust for Ra. Okay. Lo yuchan be'enav rehu. This is the part that's a little hard to translate.
His friend will not find favor in his as in the Rasha's eyes.
Okay. Favor in his, i.e., the Rasha's eyes, and I think that's a good translation. Yeah. Okay. So the soul of a Rasha lusts for or desires Ra. His friend will not find favor in his eyes. Yeah. Okay. So we have here Metzudas Tzion says Yuchan is milashon chen. Okay. I don't know what the other option is, but it means chen or favor. Okay. Sadigon says Timsa sheharasha kasher misave nafsho lahera lo yimtza chen be'enav re'ehu. So you will find that the Rasha, kasher misave nafsho lo hera, when his soul desires to do evil, right? Lahira, I assume is to do evil. Lo yimtza chen be'enav re'ehu. His friend will not find favor in his eyes. Okay, not an extremely different thing. Targum, I think, is just a straight up translation. Nafshe de Rashia Raiga Bishta. Okay, so the soul of the wicked person, Raiga, is like from the word, I think they say that the word esrog comes from desire, like because ragag is the Aramaic for taiva. Bishta, desire is evil. V'lo misrachim be'ainoi chavre. And misrachim is usually the Targum translation, I think, for ohev. But I didn't look and see whether it is the translation for chen. I'm not sure. Obviously it comes from like rachamim, but so I'm going to assume that this is just a straight up translation. But we can go back to it if we need to. Okay, and then the Art Scroll says the soul of the evildoer desires evil. His companion in evil will not find favor in his eyes. And actually, I do think that that's actually a good thing because Rehu, I've seen translations of Rehu of like comrade. Okay, without the communist connotation, v'havta l're'echa kamocha does not mean like your social friend. It means your fellow, like your fellow. Maybe fellow would actually be better. His fellow.
So it means a fellow Rasha?
So I think it is ambiguous. It could mean his fellow Rasha, or it could just mean his person in his like larger social group. Say again. His peer, right? Okay, so his companion in evil will not find favor in his eyes. Living Knox says the spirit of the wicked man craves evil. Even his companion finds no favor in his eyes. Okay, so they add the word even, which is interesting. The pasuk does kind of read that way, like that the havmina is that Re'ehu would find favor in his eyes, and it's saying like it doesn't, and that would kind of also lend support to his evil companion. Like you might think that Rishaim are going to like victimize other people, but when it comes to like someone in their own evil social group, then they would favor them. Kamash Malan, no. Alter says the wicked longs for evil with all his being. Okay, so he's taking nefesh as not soul but self, right? Not in the IFS self sense, but like the like his very atzmo literally means his bone, right? In his bones, but we use it to mean self, and nafsho is sometimes used in Tanakh that way. It means like your whole being. The wicked longs for evil with all his being. His fellow man gets no pity from him. I'm going to keep that one up there because that one's sufficiently different. Okay, so questions here.
What is a Rasha?
Yeah. Let's go here. Oopsies. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. What is a Rasha in this context? Yeah.
What is Ra in this context?
What is Ra in this context? And then just reminders here. Ra can mean evil, badness, harm, right? Those are just some Stam translations here. Yeah.
What is nefesh?
Yeah. What does nefesh or nefesh Rasha mean in this context? Yeah. And also just in terms of the connotations of nefesh, nefesh is used. So if you ask the Rabbeinu Yonah, Rabbeinu Bachi, Ibn Ezra gang, that's only a gang in terms of like they all use this terminology. Nefesh means the animalistic part of you. Ruach means like the psychological part of you, and neshama means like the intellect. If you ask the Rambam, nefesh, Rambam would say that there could be exceptions, but he says nefesh is the Tzelem Elokim. That's like his main thing, and nefesh. I'm trying to think if nefesh ever means like. Yeah, I think those are the two general translations. Yeah.
Well, he uses it differently in Shemot.
Correct. Yeah, when he has the five. The what do you call it? Animating principle? I think it would be a good way to translate nefesh there, right? The five like things that cause change in the organism. Yeah. Yeah.
Not like one of the listing questions, just outside question.
Yeah.
When you read a pasuk like this, which has like Rasha seeks Ra, which we already know.
Yeah.
Do you just read that first half as in like a setup for the second half, or do you read that as something in itself that you would have had a Halloween otherwise?
I think there's both possibilities. Like when something is obvious, it seems obvious, either it actually isn't obvious and there is a chiddush in that, or the chiddush comes from the second part. Yeah.
And then you just read the first part as
like
the second part.
exactly. Yeah. Or like the premise of the second part, or the something like that. Yeah, that's a good methodology question. Yeah, Sean.
Yeah. So what does it mean to not find favor? And
Yeah.
is that a negative expression, or is that just that he doesn't see this person positively?
Okay. Yeah. So let's preempt this with what is chen in this context, and then what does it mean that his friend doesn't find favor? Is this, or let's say, so what? So what? Is this good or bad or neutral? Yeah. Go.
Why does Nevish Rasha lust for evil?
Yeah.
Right?
Why does the nefesh, it's kind of the opposite of what David's point is, right? Nefesh, Rasha, lust for Ra. Okay, so you can say, either, so you can say what.
That's obvious. You're like, what is that?
Yeah, it's always a good sign when that happens, right? It's like someone's viewing it as obvious and someone's saying, what's the chiddush?
Yeah.
You're always going to get a good discussion from that. What is the chiddush? I'll say alternatively, what is the chiddush? Yeah. Yeah. I also want to know here, what does ivsa mean? Ivsa mean? Oh, I hate it when I mess up the font. Yeah, okay. And size, anxiety. Is it 11 or 12? 11. Okay, there we go. Okay. Yeah. Oh, who is Re'ehu, right? That was kind of implicit in the translation here. Who is Re'ehu? Is it a fellow Rasha? A Stam citizen? A social friend? Something else? Yeah, Yaakov?
What's the relationship between two halves?
Yeah,
Is it therefore is whoever won't find grace?
yeah, the two have.
Favor?
Therefore, even something else. Yeah.
Who's the audience?
Who's the audience?
Is it
Yeah.
every Russia? Is it the Re'ehu? Is it some third bystander?
Yeah. Very, very. Is it the Re'ehu? Which is obviously going to be kind of contingent on whether the Re'ehu is a fellow Rasha or not, right? Because if it's a fellow Rasha, then it doesn't seem like that was the audience. But if it's a regular citizen, or if is it Re'ehu? Is it a bystander / would-be victim? Someone else? Okay. Yeah, I feel like this is
Practical application.
practical application. Likewise, what is the practical application? Yeah, Yaakov?
Just a question on this type of question in general.
Yeah.
I saw Rabbeinu Yonah back in the beginning where he said that the Mishlei will occasionally talk to Rasha.
Yeah.
When it involves like practical ownership.
Yeah.
Comes in.
Right.
So if you are looking at that type of pasuk, wouldn't it be Roy to
Yes.
say the Rasha could be an audience?
Yeah, that is definitely true. I think we gave that shear, or I gave a shear on that for the first time on the day that Trump got COVID, and then we went over it again because that's where the Rabbeinu Yonah goes through the who is the general audience of Mishlei, and then he says the general audience is going to be the four people that Mishlei says in the beginning: the Na'ar, the Pesi, the Chacham, and the Navon. And then he says, Mishlei will not talk to a Ksil or a Late or a Rasha. But then I believe this is the same Rabbeinu Yonah you're talking about, says like, if he's in a situation where basically like he gets the consequences of his actions or he gets onesh, that can like potentially open him up. But if you rebuke him, then that's not going to work.
Right.
Right. So you're right. It is possible that this could be applied to a Rasha, just not delivered to him in the form of a Stam Tochacha. Right. That's true. That's a good methodology point also. Okay, so let's try to figure this out then. Nefesh Rasha Ivsa Ra. I mean, what would you say is just a like what do you take the first half to mean? Either like to find a chiddush or as an obvious point.
Well, obviously you're trying to see evil, and that's kind of like they're given a title based off of their actions.
Yeah.
And so they do their actions then.
Right. So what is the type of evil here that they seek to do?
Dealing with power seeking evil.
Right. Some sort of power seeking evil or prominence or cover, something that is going to be advantageous to them at the expense of the system. Yeah.
It almost seems self-evident to a certain extent.
Yeah, that was what we got two teams here, right? We've got the David saying that it seems like a tautology almost, like it's just like built into the definition.
Right.
You know, and then yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's why I felt it would help to articulate what is, if it means something obvious, what does that mean? Yeah. So it means that a Rasha is someone who does evil. So obviously he desires it, right? Yeah.
Really?
To me, it seems not obvious.
Okay, let's go here.
Someone's power seeking, right?
Yeah.
He wants what's best for himself. Whether or not that's good for the system is accidental to him, isn't it? Like if it happens to be harms people,
correct.
Fine.
Okay,
if he
right.
doesn't harm people, okay. As long
right.
as he's benefiting, he's good with that.
Right. So you're saying that if Ra is, I'm trying to think how to frame it. If Ra is damage to the system, and it's not necessarily that he wants to damage the system. If boosting the system is going to be good for him, then he'll do that.
Right.
You know, his main thing is his own power. You know, right. So it is a chiddush to say that he desires Ra.
Right. He's merely indifferent.
Right. Right. Okay. Good. So we got a machlokas brewing here. Yeah. Yeah. Sean, you also.
Yeah, I agree that it's not necessarily. The question is, what does he then want?
Right.
Right. If he wants power, and it is true that he could do things that are not necessarily raw, then why does he want?
Right. And I just on that point, I think that's why I feel like the word ifsa is important here, because you could just say, like if it used, I don't know, if it used some other word like the nefesh of the Rasha, I don't know, rotze or like chafetz. I feel like then you could say that it's not like he desires that thing per se, like he just desires a certain end. And then like for example, if you said, hold on, what would be a good example of this? In other words, if he's desiring this thing as a means of something else, then it wouldn't fit in my mind with the word ifsa. To me, ifsa means like he has a taiva for that thing itself.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
well, it sounds like he's going to be like fantasizing on this thing versus just trying to get something else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I would go more along the instinctual route and say that it's something that like a non-Rasha sees these things and they're like, there's a certain amount of disgust that they have towards those things, and this person has like, it's become so consuming for them that like they don't even, they're just drawn to it. It's not like
So it's funny you say that that's the instinctual route. I was thinking the same thing, but I was thinking the intellectual route, that if nefesh is the thinking part of you, then then the like it's one thing to like desire something and be in conflict about it, but when you get to the point where you've warped your values, like that's a different level of corruption. And so his nefesh desires it. It might be the same point. I think I saw Rabbeinu Yonah take a similar approach to that, which we can try to do in a few minutes. Let's just develop it a little bit more. So we've been thinking about the first half for now. Let's just think about the second half and then see if something coalesces from the both of them. So clearly the Havamina, I think there is a clear Havamina that his Re'ehu would find favor in his eyes, right? Yeah. And I think based on that, it does make sense the way ArtScore wanted to read it, that it's Re'ehu Harasha, right? That like, there's no Havamina that he's going to be, that his victim is going to find favor in his eyes, I don't think. Because it doesn't seem like Rashaim have any compunction about harming people. Yeah, and the Chain is also weird, finds favor in his eyes. Also, I guess, is Lo Yuchan, let me add this to the questions here. When it says Chain, is this just in attitude / feeling, or is it in action? Like to favor someone, often expresses itself in action. Yeah.
Maybe if you take Ra to mean harm,
Yeah.
like it's saying that the Rasha has an aspect of him that's like purely aggressive.
Right.
He's not acting just for his own benefit, like he wants just to destroy.
Right.
In which case, I'm gonna connect all the way.
Yeah.
Let's go to the second half.
Yeah. That also is good. Right. Meaning the Havamina is like what we said before, is that the Rasha wants his own power. So you wouldn't think that he, like Davka, wants to cause destruction and harm if it doesn't necessarily serve him. But that could be the case as well. Yeah, if I had to speculate about why that is, or develop that into an idea, what I would say is that, the Rasha starts out as a person who just wants his own power and grandeur and dominance, but part of the Rasha has to recognize that like reality, it doesn't lend itself to that. Like that there's going to be, there's like an inherent obstacle to that built into the fabric of reality itself, whether because like, the Rasha is mortal, or whether the fact, the fact that like he's not going to succeed, that the consequences will catch up to him. Like there's some part of him that senses that like reality is not going to go along with this plan of his, So I wonder if there is a part of him that just like delights in like causing destruction, because that's like a cume in him exerting himself over reality, if that makes any sense. Like it, okay, the Lahavdil, it's like when a little kid first learns how to lie, like, and can like, like the kid will, there's gonna be two things going on with the kid, is that the kid will use lying in order to like achieve a utilitarian benefit. Like I did not eat the cookies from the cookie jar, or like I did clean my room. But then there's also like a pleasure that a little kid gets in the manipulation from the lying itself. Like I can just manipulate reality, and like, and therefore the kid might do it even if there's no utilitarian benefit. I feel like there's a similar thing in the Rasha, that the Rasha really wants to completely restructure reality in a way that serves his own like idea of his own greatness. But and so he'll operate, his desires will ordinarily operate in a utilitarian way, but there's also just this feeling of like, man, I just want reality to bend to my will, and like the desiring of harm and destruction like is a key in that. Yeah.
So on the second half,
yeah,
right, so thinking about this more in like a framework of Kantian ethics,
okay,
right, where like usually people, when they interact with people who have similar interests,
yeah,
right, they recognize their interests and they recognize the other person's interests,
yeah,
and they see that they align, and then they work with them,
right.
But a person who's like a full Rasha,
yeah,
is not even going to see the other person's, even if they are like acting in a way that is similar to them and like towards
yeah,
the same ends,
yeah,
right, they're just going to see them as a means towards their ends, and they're not going to see their view towards their ends as well.
Okay, I think this is also Rabbeinu Yonah, which makes me now, that's your number 2 Rabbeinu Yonah reference. Let's do Rabbeinu Yonah just to develop this approach and then see where that takes us. I think it is Rabbeinu. I only glanced at him. So Rabbeinu Yonah is, so he begins with, wait, where are we? I'm on the wrong page. This is pasuk Yud.
Yeah.
All right. He begins by connecting this loosely in the classic Rabbeinu Yonah loose connections to the previous pasukim. Okay, he says Nefesh Rasha Yivsa Ra Lo Yuchan Be'enav Re'ehu. Hine Diber al Inyan Midas Rov Bnei Adam Kihu Hafach Bach Vazar. So 2 pasukim ago, it talked about the behavior or the traits of the majority of people when it says it's Hafach Bach and Zar. I don't remember if we did Rabbeinu Yonah on that, but he was learning it that it's not Hafachbach as a personality type. It's the derech ish is Hafachbach. So like most people. V'dibir, we'll go back if we have to. I don't know if it's necessary. V'dibir al eshes midyanim ki kavda me'od. Then it talked about the contentious wife, which is very heavy and like it weighs upon you. The ata baladaber al midas harasha. And now it comes to talk about the behavior or the trait of the Rasha. Ki yitain machashato lichsof ulihis avos ra. That he devotes his thought, his thinking, to yearn for and desire Ra. Kiamnam Yoser b'nei Adam habenoniim. Average. I don't know what he means when he says Yoser b'nei Adam. I think I sense he's using the word yoser here in the sense of like shar, like other average people. Gam ki yiru levavam, even when their hearts are like causing bad, v'lo yidagu l'tzaras chavirehem, and they don't. Hold on, maybe I'm reading it wrong. Ki amnam yoser b'nei adam habenoniyim. Gam ki yiru.
Most people.
Maybe most, yeah, it's weird though, right? Yoser feels like a weird usage here, right? Gam ki yiru levavam v'lo yidagu l'tzaras chavirehem, even when their heart is evil and they don't have worry about the afflictions of to their friends. They will not devote their thoughts and send forth their thinking, the thinking of their heart to desire evil. I know this doesn't make sense yet. But this Rasha, his friend will not find favor in his eyes. Or maybe Yira'eh, I don't know if it's Yira'eh or Yireh, even if he sees or appears like a loved one to his friend, lo yirachem alav la'olam, lo yachon oso bevo elav ra'a. He will not have mercy on him. He will never have mercy on him, nor will he have favor in his eyes when something bad happens to him. Even though it's possible that he will seek the good of his friend for his own benefit, because he is assisted in his friendship. What is it? Okay, I don't know what yisachin is. He will benefit from it and he'll find some sort of a utilitarian purpose. But he will not favor him out of chanina on the day of his misfortune. Hold on, maybe this wasn't the Rabbeinu Yonah. Do you remember what the first point I said that was similar to the Rabbeinu Yonah in your shot?
No.
Okay. And this is not what, okay, hold on. I did see someone who pointed out the Kantian thing. Was it the Meiri? Hold on. No. Was it Sadigon? No. Yeah, David?
Yeah, just I thought maybe a little bit from this, and also what Tom was saying with the content thing.
Yeah.
Rasha, so right, usually you'll have like when people are working together, they'll be like help pushing each other forward.
Yeah.
But a Rasha, when he's all invested in himself, when things, well, really two things from here. One, when things start going bad, I think it's what Rabbeinu was saying, that he'll then push you down, which means
throw you under the bus. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're never gonna really end up benefiting from here, because if he ends up on top, then you're just gonna leave himself on top.
Yeah.
If not, then the other thing is that's the type of person that you can see as they're going along, right? Like he'll be telling you like, oh yeah, like we're in this together, things like that. You could also see when there are moves, like certain moves can be beneficial for both of you, or they can be like taken all for himself.
Yeah.
And you can watch someone along their path and see, are the moves that he's making, like if you're in a partnership, like a business partnership with someone,
Yeah.
are the moves that this guy is making always going to be just like a little bit, even if the guy doesn't realize, the Rasha doesn't realize it, but they're always like moves that are purely self-beneficial. You could tell that he's really in this for himself the whole way through, and he's gonna end up, you're not there, you're only there for his benefit, and he doesn't actually care for you.
Right. I just want to piggyback on that point for a second and then come back to this and to what you were saying is that it's in the best interest of the Rasha to act like a tzaddik within his chevra of Rashayim. Like that again, it tends, the members of a system tend to thrive when you benefit the entire system, but the Rasha is really constitutionally incapable of that, because he's always going to be like vying for that extra, like getting ahead, and because that's what his ultimate destination is. So what you're pointing out is that like this is a way to spot, the like how this is going to end up. This is going to end up at the end of the day, if this goes successfully, you're going to end up thrown under the bus and he's going to end up on top, and if he gets a chance to kill you in your sleep and take all your stuff without any consequences, he's going to do that. Like, don't think that he's going to have that same sort of like group self-interest that the tzaddik has. Say what you said again before we do the Rabbeinu Yonah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Isaac.
Just, I think springboarding off of that, the Rasha views it as like a zero-sum game, which like he can only get things by taking from other, like,
Right.
by making other people get less. And
Yeah.
so what that means is that since he wants to maximize what he gets, he's
Yeah.
going to do that by doing raw to other people.
Yeah. Oh, see, okay, hold on a second. I gotta make a statement here. So there's certain shiurim that I've wanted to give for a very long time, but I don't feel like I'm on the level to give it. So I've been wanting to, and I think I alluded to this in another Mishlei shiur. I can't remember if it was this or in a Monday night one. I've wanted to give a shiur on how the modern concept of privilege is evil and against Torah, and that the way the Torah formulates it is birchas Hashem, is Hashem's brachos that he gives to us, and that there is a concept of a responsibility to use the resources that you have for justice. But I think what Isaac is saying like makes me realize one more dimension of that is that the whole concept of privilege, the way that like, you know, progressives use it is like it's a zero-sum game, you know, and that what I'm realizing now is like I haven't developed this idea. I feel like that's creating a society in which the philosophy of the Rasha is at the foundation, which is like another reason why it's really, really bad. But yeah,
That's really bad.
yeah, again, this is not developed thoughts, but like I've been like, you know, yeah, well, at some point I just don't know enough about like what I only know about privilege talk from like what I see on the internet. I haven't like researched like that theory. I know it's like in some sort of like neo-Marxist like type thing, but I tried reading Marx in order to understand. I was like, oh, this is boring, you know. So I couldn't really get into it. Yeah. Okay. So what were you saying again about the Kantian thing?
Yeah. So
Before
in terms of like, you can Kant talks about using people as either seeing them as ends and means, right? That they have their own ends, and that like you can use them, but only if their ends align with your ends. So the Rasha just sees people as a way to facilitate whatever it is that they want, and so even if it looks like they're helping out the other person, they're really not. They're using it for themselves. So like anything that looks like favor is actually not favor.
Okay.
Whereas like a person who actually is not a Rasha is going to interact with people, and they're going to recognize that this person has their own desires and the things that they want, and they're going to help facilitate that because that's going to be the best thing for everyone.
Okay, so that does sound like a complete shot, and I think it pairs well with what you were saying. So let's just try stating it here, which is because the nefesh of the Rasha desires Ra. So this is like stating a premise, right? Because and Ra here would be this sort of like systemic self-promoting dominance type thing, because he desires that. Therefore, even his re'ehu will not find favor in his eyes. And the havmina is, well, it looks like he's either it looks like he's favoring me if I'm his re'ehu, or like I would think that he has a rational reason to favor me because the more he favors me, if I'm helping him, like we're all going to build each other up, you know. But Kamash Milan, it's not true favor. He's always going to relate to me as a means. And again, I think the extreme Rashaim are good examples of this, of like the or extreme Rasha behavior. It doesn't have to be extreme Rashaim, but let's say like you know, I mean, like, okay, I don't know enough of the history. I feel like Nixon did this a bunch, of like throwing people under the bus, or Stalin definitely, you know, but like you know, like the you know, it's got to feel like a huge, or you know, another example of this is like yeah, I don't know, you can think of examples.
So then I think the audience is the minions, right?
Okay.
The people who are like under the big boss. The boss throws them a bone every once in a while, and like they feel so special because of that, and they think that they have favor in their master's eyes, but they really don't.
That's
and
good.
He's gonna like
exactly
he just whenever they're no longer useful.
Correct. And it's interesting because that does not have to be Re'ehu as a fellow Rasha. Like there are times when like you might have to like work with a Rasha in order to secure benefit. Like say like in, you know, like you know, certain Tanaim had to like, you know, appease the Caesar or whatever. And they will have to partner with the Rasha in order to you know, for the purposes of good, but just don't be duped by this, you know, the way he's going to view you. It really reminds me of that Mishnah in Pirkei Avos about politicians, you know, right? That they befriend they appear like friends at the time of their need, but they don't stand by you at the time of your need. You know, so you learn from me about all politicians or Rasha. Yeah.
Also, just sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just read it.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go.
How are you defining raw in this?
So right now, I think we are defining it as just the type of Rasha behavior of building himself up at all costs.
Why would you call that raw?
Because I think that is the Mishlei definition of a Rasha, that he's going to be against tzedek, like against the thriving of the system.
But I guess going back to my earlier question, like, is he like inherently hating the good of the system, or is he just?
No, I don't think it's. I think it is using it to promote his own good. Yeah, I don't think it's like he desires evil for a pure way. I think I still want to explore that notion, but I don't think with Sean's idea that you have to say that. Yeah, David, one last point for today. And
yeah, also this just does sound related then to the last pasuk with the Eshet Midanim of at least when we started off this morning also with like not if you're gonna especially if you're gonna learn it that was
those side going
as a business partner same type of thing.
Yeah,
it sounds like
correct. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's funny by the way. I realized Sadigon's connects the psukim way more. Rabbeinu Yonah just like nodded to the last two psukim, but I don't quite get how he's explaining it. You know, like the Derek Rovan and then the Ashes Midian. He says, and now it talks about the Rasha. Not quite clear of a connection. Okay, so let's think about it, and we'll come back to it, Bli Neder, tomorrow, and see if we get another idea. I think that was a good review, right? Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
See you, Isaac.
Thank you.
Thanks.